The reality of not all babies are killed by a caretaker shaking them. And the reason why I'm so passionate about this topic is because my child is a victim of shaken baby syndrome. And she was shaken at 7 weeks of age by her biological father. I was actually at work. I work right across the street here at Calusa Elementary School. And I got the call right towards the end of the day, unfortunately, that my baby was being rushed to Mease Countryside. From that point on, it wasn't something that they were able to take care of. But before I get into that piece, because that can go very deep and it can be very hurtful, because as women and men, it's something that pulls at your heartstrings. So I wanted to share with you the harm that can come from a baby being shaken. Like my daughter's brain has been affected by the shaking that was done to her. Okay? So as you can see, the head jerks back and forth rapidly, which is not just something like this, but it's aggressively, and it goes back and forth. And as you know, when a baby is 7 weeks old, you have to hold the baby's head and neck to support it to make sure that it's safe and being well taken care of. So when something like that happens to a baby, the blood vessels in and around the brain are damaged. And you'll see pictures of my daughter's brain and how it was damaged, and all the blood and the swelling that is caused by the pressure that's built up in the brain. Because like some of you wrote down on your sticky notes, that is the biggest part of the body that's affected. And I don't know if you know this or not, but everything starts in your brain. Your brain tells your body to move. Your brain tells your body, when it needs to go to the restroom. It starts all up here. My daughter was fortunate to survive. Like the video talked about, the different parts of the brain. If her brain had been affected in the middle, she would not be here with us today. It was affected in the back, which she did have retinal hemorrhaging. She had extreme bleeding behind her right and left eye. And from being shaken, she wasn't shaken just once or twice, but it was 3 times. And like I said, I'll talk about that a little bit more in a little bit. But the front, it's called the frontal lobe, was the part that was the most impacted in my daughter. And as the doctors were discussing, that impacts behavior, that impacts the developmental process of a typical child developing and meeting their milestones as they get older throughout the years. So some of the lifelong disabilities that can come from shaken baby include blindness, which my daughter, her left eye, because she suffered a stroke on the left side of her brain from being shaken so hard, that has caused paralysis, which is the second one, cerebral palsy, as you may have known or heard about that before, on the right side of her body. So her right side of her body is a lot weaker than her left side of the body. However, she does have movement on her right side. I've got her in soccer. I've got her involved in as many activities as I possibly can to build up that strength in her body. Mental disabilities, I'm not really sure at this point in time. She's 3 years old, just turned it at the end of October, but I'm starting to see some of the struggles that she has with impulsivity. Possibly ADD or ADHD might be something that we face down the road. I'm not really sure. Her growth and development, she was unable to sit because when she was injured, your core, which is like basically the trunk, you think of a tree, it's your trunk, and that was very impacted, along with her neck. So it took her a long time to just be able to sit up and to hold your neck, and that's something that we really take for granted because we don't really think about how much our muscles are included in our everyday life. And then she didn't start to walk until about 16 months, which when she started to walk, we had to get her a brace for her right leg. And I meant to bring her little brace, but that was so it could help her to be more stable on her feet. And unfortunately, the last one is what's called seizure disorders. And what happened with my daughter, her name is Haley, is she was having seizure after seizure. And do any of you know what a seizure does to your body? Anybody have any ideas? There's no right or wrong. Okay. It goes into shock. Yes. And what happened with my daughter, it wasn't like an epileptic seizure that she had, but her arms, her arms would go like this. And you'll see pictures. She had an EEG cap on, and they had it to where we could see it on the video monitor because she was having them so severely that medicine couldn't control it. So that's something that she will have for the rest of her life, unfortunately. And she wasn't born this way. This was something, Haley was born a very healthy 6-pound, 1-ounce baby girl. She was 20 inches long, and at 7 weeks that was taken from her. And so I'm going to share a little bit more about why babies cry. And that was one of the reasons why Haley was shook, was because she was crying and she wouldn't stop. And crying for a baby is normal, just like talking for us is normal, right? We talk to our friends, we talk to our parents. And for a baby, unfortunately, when they're first born, they don't know how to talk yet. That's something that they learn as they get older. And so crying is a part of how they communicate. And I have this little clip. And as you could probably tell by the sound, when you hear your own baby crying, it can be difficult and it can be challenging. And they only cry for, their needs to be met. It's either that they're hungry or they need a diaper change, they want to be held. A lot of times maybe they're too cold, it's too cold in the house. They want to be, covered up with a blanket. It's just simple things that they do to communicate. And like I put down at the bottom, it can be an annoying sound. That baby crying kind of gives me chills. That was not my baby. But it's supposed to. It's their only way to let us know, hey, that baby's still there and we can't ignore that fact, okay? Now, it can be frustrating. If you have a baby that might be colicky, how many of you know what that means? She's back there going like this. She could probably maybe put up 2 hands. It's reality, and you're going to hear your baby cry, and it may cry and cry and cry and cry. Just like Haley did. It was time for Haley to be fed. Her biological father wanted to feed her, keep her on her schedule, and Haley didn't want to be fed. She wasn't hungry at that time, but she was crying, and for whatever reason, he was unable to comfort her, and so that led to her being shaken. Now, like she just said, that feeling of helplessness, when you feel like in your heart, oh my goodness, I can't help my baby, I can't help her to calm down, I can't help him to feel better. And when they're sick, there's not a whole lot that can be done until they're like 2, 3, 4 years old, because the doctors will tell you, you know what, they're too little for medicine, so you're kind of stuck with, okay, how am I going to help my baby to feel better? And so that can be painful. And I want you to know that frustration is normal. And to have that support group is a necessity. If you don't have parents that support you, reach out to your teachers, reach out to your friends. I've had a best friend who has been with me. It'll be 3 years this December that it happened to my daughter. And she has been with me every step of the way. She's never left my side. She's on her way here now, if she hasn't gotten here already, just to show you how important it is to have that person, that one go-to person. You know what? My baby's crying. I need a break. It's okay to take a break. It's not okay to shake. You lay that baby down and you walk away. Because this was what happened to mine when she wasn't laid down and he didn't walk away and he didn't call me, or he didn't call my father, who was 5 minutes away and could have been there in a heartbeat. This is a picture of her with her EEG cap on. They had to intubate her. That's her feeding tube. That's her breathing tube. Her eyes were swollen shut. As you can tell, her face is very, very red. Underneath this cap was extreme bleeding. It was so severe that I had to make a decision. Not only was the bleeding severe, but the seizures were constant. And I had to make a decision to medically induce a coma. And I want to tell you a little bit about the biological father, because I saw no signs, none. He was extremely excited to have her. He was thrilled it was going to be a girl. She was going to be Daddy's little girl. He went to every prenatal visit I had, and you girls know that's once a month. Always made sure I took my vitamins. Never saw it coming in a million years. We had been together going on about 3 years. And then I was at work. I had just gotten off of maternity leave. I was on maternity leave for 6 weeks. I'd been back for 5 days, and I got the call. So I immediately rushed to the hospital to find her in a little incubator because she was so little, and they had to keep her warm because it was probably the coldest day in December in 2010. It was one of those days the wind was really strong and it was really, really cold. It was probably one of our coldest winters, so to speak, in the state of Florida. But they didn't have the necessary care at Meese Countryside where she was rushed to. So they had to, and they couldn't send bay flight because the wind was so strong. So we had to wait for the intensive care ambulance to come and pick her up and then drive her all the way. All Children's is in St. Pete. Well, I lived at the time in Palm Harbor. So we were able to take her to All Children's, and at All Children's she stayed there for about 15 days. And On the second day was when I had to make probably the toughest decision of my life. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Kathy Giffords. She was in the, what am I trying to say, government. She got shot, and her husband had to make a decision to medically induce a coma. And so the doctors came to me and said, you know, Laura, either you make the decision to induce a 72-hour coma, or chances are she's not going to make it. And my thought was, well, what if she doesn't come out of the coma? And what's going to be the aftermath of her coming out of the coma? Because what happens in a coma, does anybody know?
Brain shuts down.
Your brain shuts down. So they had to totally shut my baby's brain down in order to hopefully, when she came out of it, rejuvenate her brain cells enough to be able to function. And also during this discussion was when they were telling me, you know, she will most likely be a vegetable. Her quality of life will be very poor. They told me, you know, the worst case scenario. She will not walk, she will not talk, she will not be able to eat on her own. And so I thought, well, it's my baby, and I'm gonna love her no matter what. And so I made the decision with the support of my family and my friends to induce the coma. So that is her, and that is how actually she spent her first Christmas, was unfortunately fighting for her life. This is her. It was the first time I saw her beautiful blue eyes after 5 days of them being swollen shut from all the blood and the bleeding on her brain. Oh, thank you. It was probably one of the best moments that I ever had, because I didn't know. And you'll see as I go through the PowerPoint those pretty blue eyes that I'm talking about. So as a mom, she did come out of it. She came out of it with her eyes wide open after the 72 hours. I induced it on a Wednesday. It was Friday night, and we're all in there having positive thoughts. And, you know, I don't know how many of you may be, you know, faith-based or whatnot, but this was really when my faith came to the surface, and I was so thankful. So she came out, and with her eyes wide open. This is her after her coma. And this is really what I want you to take from this, is that instead of shaking, take a break. Lay that baby down in his or her crib, walk away. Take a deep breath, and don't go back until you're ready. Okay? Like she said, call your support system. Make sure you've got a strong support system in place. Call a friend, call a neighbor. He could have called the neighbor downstairs, and she would have been there in a heartbeat. We didn't know her very well, but guess what? When you're in a situation like that, people come together, and they will help you. And before you even lay your hands on that baby again, make sure that you are 100% calm and in a good state and frame of mind. Because when you're frustrated, what happens?
You lose it.
You lose it. What else? What else happens when we're mad? We all get mad. We do things we'll regret. When you're mad, do you say things that you don't mean to say? Do you do things you don't mean to do? Absolutely. But when it comes to this baby, lay him or her down. Give her that chance, or him that chance to live. Now, just like the doctors were talking about ways to calm your baby, it's gonna happen. You're gonna have sleepless nights. You're gonna be tired. You're going to be, working and trying to maybe go to school, and it's gonna be a situation where, you know what? It's just you and that baby, and you've got to make it work some way, somehow. And I really want you to keep in mind some of these calming ideas and strategies because they work. And sometimes they don't, but most of the times they do. So just like the doctors talked about the 4 S's, I just wanted to reiterate how important it is to make sure that all the basic needs are met, that the baby's been fed, the baby's been changed, the baby's not cold or too hot. Okay, because what might be cold or hot to you might not be to your baby. Like, I walk around freezing all the time. Haley could care less. It could be 60 degrees in the house and she wants shorts and a t-shirt on. And I've got like my flannels on. So, making sure that you know what your baby's needs are and that you're meeting them. Rocking, that how the doctors were talking about swinging, that back and forth motion can be so soothing. It's just like when you're pregnant and you're walking during the daytime, that baby is probably sleeping because you're walking and it's kind of being rocked back and forth inside your belly. And then at night when you're trying to sleep, guess what? The baby's wide awake and wants to kick, and you're trying to sleep. So you want to make sure that you're taking care of the needs, rocking it. Believe it or not, a loud, like white noise. How many of you have to sleep with like a fan on at night? If I don't have a fan on, I don't sleep. Sometimes for babies with the hair dryer going or vacuum cleaner even. I remember when Haley, before she got injured, I could run that vacuum cleaner all throughout the house and it would just be so soothing to her. Other babies, they freak out, it scares them, they want no part of it. So it's something that you really kind of need to know how your baby is and how that baby will react. To touch. Go ahead.
You can put the static on the TV as well, right?
Absolutely. Whatever works. Maybe you like to listen to music. Babies love music. Maybe you want to read to them. It's always good, even when the baby's in the womb, to read to them. And then when they're born, and they're having a hard time, to make sure that you're reading to them, touching. Even as adults, that hug or that touch, it's okay. Or the rub on the back, it's okay. Can be very soothing. The music, like I talked about, and even taking the baby for a stroller ride. I mean, it may be midnight and you might be out, walking your baby. I wouldn't necessarily say do that, but maybe even stroll the baby around the house. I was even told, my pediatrician told me, when they have the car seats that are the carrier, and then the car seat can go in the car, and then it can go on the stroller. Yeah. The pediatrician said, oh, put that on top of the dryer. What? I'm like, how is that? I'm like, my baby's gonna fly off the dryer. And they were like, no, you'd be amazed that motion from the dryer and even the sound is soothing. I don't know if that's necessarily safe or not. I never tried it because I thought that was a little weird. So this is Haley's life after being shaken. She has cerebral palsy on the right side of her body. She literally walks, and Mr. Dunn can attest to this because his son plays soccer, And my daughter plays soccer, but his son's a lot older than my daughter. But she will run, won't she, Mr. Dunn, like this. But it doesn't stop her because she's had that mentality. She's had to fight to survive her whole life. So when it comes to her, nothing really stops her. And that can be good, but it can also be very challenging as her mom because she gets very headstrong and she gets very determined. And I'm thankful for that, but I have to filter that in a positive way because if not, then she has a tendency to want to rule the roost. She wants to be in charge, and as moms and dads, you have to, have those boundaries. She doesn't live a normal life, and she was born a normal baby. Haley has therapy 4 days out of 5 a week. She is in a special education class. I had to place her in a varying exceptionalities classroom because of her label being traumatic brain injury, TBI. She's also DD, which is developmentally delayed. She is 1.5 years behind her peers, and you will hear Haley, hopefully at the end, she has some closing remarks for all of you. But that's not how her life was supposed to be. And as a mom who carried her and knows how healthy she was and seeing her, she came out of me with her eyes wide open and just a healthy baby girl. And now with the stroke, 75% of her brain is dead, which means that cannot be rejuvenated. It cannot be brought back to life. When you're dead, you're dead. And that is what happened to her from the bleeding, like they were showing how when it's in the front and in the back, the impact that has. And then thankfully, by God's grace, it wasn't in the middle because she wouldn't be here. Her speech is delayed 1.5 years. She is not able to put sentences together. A typical 3-year-old can do that. She's smarter than a whip. Her cognitive ability is very, very strong. She can follow 3-step commands like, Haley, I need you to go over, pick up the tissue box and hand it to her. She would be able to do that. Now, could she repeat what I just said? No. Could she do what I asked her to do? Yes. She wears leg braces. I just got her fitted. We finally found a phenomenal physical therapist and a brace man who has been phenomenal. And we're going to get her special shoes and special brace, and hopefully that will help with her internal rotation and the weakness on the right side.
What do you mean by special shoes? What kind of shoes is she?
Special shoes. I don't know if I brought a picture of them or not, but they actually help with her brace and the brace fitting in her shoe properly. They look as normal as possible, but what it does is it's wider because obviously with the brace being on the foot, that's going to make her foot a little bit wider, and she's already got extra wide feet. So the special brace shoes allow for her to have that extra room to move. It also gives her more support on her heel so that when she's walking in her brace, that she has the mobility to move without having to move like this. She'll hopefully be able to walk in a normal fashion. Does that answer your question? I can put her in regular shoes, but it's extremely hard to find. I already have to get her extra wide shoes, so to have to get her extra wide shoes is a big struggle. Even at Stride Rite, it is very expensive, obviously, and then I have to end up buying two because one has to be like a size bigger than the other because she doesn't wear a brace on her left foot. So her left foot's fine, but then her right foot has the brace and has to have the bigger size shoe. So it gets a little bit challenging.
I have a question. I don't know if it's too personal. You can let me know if it is. Has her relationship with her father been changed? Like, is there some type of, like, I don't know.
I can answer that. He is serving a 10-year sentence. We went to court. I had his rights terminated. If I can't trust him to keep my daughter safe, he has no right to ever lay his hands on her again. So as her mother and as her protector and her only protector, he has an injunction against him that I have in place on her behalf. And also his rights were totally terminated. So it's natural once you turn 18, you want to know, where you came from, who your mom is, who your dad is, But for right now, that relationship was severed once the injury occurred. She may want that, down the road. She may not. I won't keep the truth from her. She deserves to know that. And hopefully this won't be something that has to be long-term, being in a special ed class, being different and knowing that you weren't born different. Good question. So, with that being said, this is her. And like I said, her life is not normal anymore. That was taken from her the day that it happened. She has to get MRIs done, which is a scan of your brain, and that's how I found out that 75% of her brain is damaged, and that is her actually waiting to get her MRI. And an MRI, you have to have anesthesia, which is a big fear of mine. But she came out of it, and we're better for it. She gets EEGs done, which they put electrodes in her brain and then they wrap it up. And she has to sit through that. It's usually about a 45 minute process. And then that's just to make sure that her brain waves are functioning okay. Because the first EEG that was done, they told me that there was minimal to no activity in her brain. And being an educator in loving learning and loving school, her brain and her functioning of her brain is very important to me. So we get EEGs done, and I'm proud to announce that her brain has been able to rejuvenate. Go ahead.
Do you feel like her getting shaken has brought you closer than you would have been if she wasn't
It has definitely made me a stronger person personally. It has made me want to do what I'm doing with you today, to be an advocate for her because she can't talk for herself, and to let people know that you have a baby, they have you watch maybe a 2-second video on shaken baby syndrome, and then they send you on your way. And honestly, when I was told that she had been shaken, I was like, okay, I'm thinking, Haley. I'm not thinking, Haley. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. So that is something that has come from her and I definitely have a stronger bond. It's tough though for her and I because it's just the two of us. So she is at an age now where she's starting to explore, she's starting to, become a little person. And I can tell you, as she was going through this, I never stopped. And I will continue to fight. And I fight every day just like she does, be it with Medicaid, be it with the school system, be it with whomever, that it's important to create awareness and to make sure that people know that this is real. This is not just something that you watch on a 2-second video, okay? So with that being said, I have decals for everybody to either put on your cars. I've got them in purple, I've got them in pink, black, blue. Some of you from last year may already still have yours. Maybe you need a new one. Feel free. Maybe your parents might want one. But it's a huge conversation piece. I have a huge magnet on the driver's side of my car. And I'll go through a drive-through at McDonald's. Oh, is your baby okay? Yeah, take a look at her in the back seat. She's, yummies, yummies. Even at the bank, they'll stop and they'll ask you, what is that? And you can share with them, what you've learned. So I'm gonna leave these. You guys can sort through them and take whatever color you would like. Also, with that being said, I want to try. It's a dark video, but I kind of have to get Haley in the moment for her to talk. But here's what she has to say.